This is episode number 6 of How to Run a Salesforce Freelance Business, a podcast mini-series on salesforceben.com. My name is Brian Shea. I am a Salesforce architect. I'm a self-employed consultant, and I am the host. In this episode, I talk with Brian Talarczyk and Tom Ryan about scaling a services business. Both are in leadership at Pardot Salesforce consulting firms. Brian is the general manager at Cheshire Impact, and Tom is the founder of MarcCloud Consulting. We talk about what goes into scaling a services business, the difference between running a solo freelance business and running a consulting business at scale with employees. And we talk about why it is never too early to decide if you want to remain a solo freelancer or ultimately want to scale.
My name is Brian Talarczyk. I'm the general manager of Cheshire Impact. Cheshire Impact is a Salesforce Silver partner. We provide B2B sales and marketing advisory and technology services in the Salesforce Pardot ecosystem. We're about 25 employees big presently, entirely remote employees across North America, probably like 15 or so different states or so now. We've brought on about 2,500 clients or so onto the Salesforce Pardot platform across 8 years. We do a lot of ecosystem events. Folks might know us through the Hardcore Marketing Show that Casey Cheshire runs, and also Pardot Life Hacks. Casey Cheshire is the founder of Cheshire Impact. And I'm the general manager, so my role is to basically own the store day to day while he heads up all the marketing and out-facing kind of stuff. So sales and marketing, sales and finance and HR and legal and obviously operations all fall like under me and my team to kind of manage through. So
awesome. And remind me, Cheshire Impact has been around a long time in the Pardot space. How long have you all been around for?
Total, probably more than 8 years. We were with Pardot well before Pardot was even on Salesforce's acquisition radar. So we had a relationship there and came into the Salesforce ecosystem through that acquisition. So we knew a lot of, in fact, some of the folks from like members of the sales team at Salesforce Pardot are now Cheshire employees. Kind of thing.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so been around for quite some time in the B2B space, and then as Pardot got absorbed in the Salesforce platform more and more, started moving to Salesforce Consulting. So we really do both now, and tying that together, and we provide a lot of advisory in the lead to revenue space, kind of taking it from end to end. So.
Awesome. Tom Ryan, let's hear it. MarcCloud Consulting. What's going on there? You tell us about yourself and about your firm.
Cool. So yeah, I'm Tom Ryan. I'm the founder of Marcloud Consulting, based here in the UK, as you can tell from my lovely accent. We are a Pardot only consultancy. So we do everything Pardot end to end, from implementation all the way through to marketing automation strategy. We do development. We build all the templates and that kind of thing. And even ad hoc support and audits. The whole thing basically, and some of it creeps into the analytics side of things in Salesforce, and we actually do end-to-end marketing because we're marketing people, and that comes through in our own business. So I set the thing up end of 2017. Originally was a lifestyle business, so I was traveling. I was living in Bali, I was living in Copenhagen, and all around the world, until eventually took it serious because I took on too many clients. GDPR was horrendous. That was a bad time for a freelancer, I'd say that. So took on some more people, and it's my role's changed ever since. So now day to day, I'm sort of overseeing some of the work that goes out, or most of the work that goes out, teaming up with my colleague Jake, and sort of managing and implementing processes that make the team more efficient. So there's a lot of process management, using Salesforce, using Pardot, reports. I'm one of those people now. I just love reports. And
one
then
of
also,
those people.
Yeah. Just I used to be like deep into the work and love doing the work, but now I'm all about reporting and sort of seeing things improve and a lot of selling.
Yeah.
I'm now a salesman as well.
So this is great because like we were chatting about earlier, this interview series that we're doing is really about freelancing, right? Being a solo freelancer. And the reason why we're wanted to do this episode is really to give people a sense of what the difference is between being a solo freelancer and running a agency, partnership, whatever you want to call it, something at a larger scale. And Tom, you started to talk a little bit about referencing some of the differences. Can you talk, let's even take a step back and talk about, you started as a soloist, and at some point you made the decision to grow. Talk about that decision, why you made it, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it initially came about just through talks of a friend, as most things do, and we decided to team up, primarily because I think I was at the capacity where I was taking on too many clients, and I was very bad at managing that whole saying no to people. I just loved new projects, and I was excited for new things. I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can fit that in. And realistically, I'm just one man, which is a shame. But that's ultimately the reason that sort of led to the decision to grow. And I kind of had the infrastructure anyway. I was called MarcLoud Consulting. I had a website that looked professional, and was getting a lot of attention from big clients that freelance shouldn't really get, in the sense that they were approaching me as if I was bigger than I was, and rightly so. But managed to pull in some big clients, and it sort of grew from there. It was pretty organic in the sense that it happened at the right time by itself.
And before, so obviously before you hired anyone, you were getting clients, servicing the clients. You were in the Pardot space. Now, were you doing sort of the strategy and the build? Were you doing it all yourself?
Yeah, I'm very against outsourcing, being one of the people that was a project manager, because I didn't want to deceive anyone. So it was very much selling to the client in the sense that this is the project, here's the scope. So I was doing all the sales stuff all the way through to managing it myself. And a lot of the clients wouldn't leave because of the work. The work was good, and that's a good thing. I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah.
But in a sense, when new clients come in, you don't get that excitement anymore. It's oh God, I've got to do another one.
Right. Awesome. And in terms of that transition, can you talk about your first sort of your first hire when you went from being a soloist to having a team?
Yeah. For me, it was, I don't know if it's unique, but it was, it's definitely different. So I hired a really close friend, just a naturally high performer, excelled in his career in sort of retail. He managed 60 odd people for a really well-known brand. And some of those skills are transferable. And it really helped me having someone I could 100% trust and know they're not going to leave, because that's always a risk when you're growing. You bring someone in, they get your expertise, and then they leave, and it's like, okay, I've got to pick their job back up. And luckily for me, I didn't need to worry about that because of the relationship I had, and that really has laid the foundations for growth, because now we've got more good people, and the culture is already in a really good place.
That's awesome. And Brian Talarczyk, I'm going to toss it back to you because you're in a little bit of a different spot, right? When you came into Cheshire, they were already, I don't know how big the team was, but already a large consultancy, and you were brought in as the general manager, COO. Can you talk about what you're doing, maybe not on day to day, but just in general in terms of running that business?
Yeah, we were about, when I first started, about 15 people big. So we've added on, about 10 or so folks. So a good jump. It was a period of hyper growth. We had a lot of growth that came in, which required us to scale on top of already had scaled. There's a lot of great people in the company. So it's kind of picking up what was already in flight as far as scaling and trying to get big and saying, okay, to take the next step from 15 to 25 to 30 to roughly 35 was the company size we were targeting to get to over the course of 2 or 3 years. It really involved a lot of people, process, and technology evaluations across every function. More than anything, to be honest, it involved creating a really strong middle management layer that I consider myself a part of, not necessarily they all report to me, but it really kind of as a team, we manage the group. So I have a head of sales, and I have a head of, we have a Pardot practice lead, we have a Salesforce practice lead, we have a head solution architect that kind of oversees that, and we have an in-house creative department. So all those functions at 25 people, our average project run rate has gone from 60 or so projects in flight to 90 or so projects in flight at any given point in time. You need that group and that layer to just, to kind of manage things on your behalf. So a lot of it was kind of, putting that structure in place, and then from behind the scenes, working through all those people, process, and technology things to make sure that, for us now, it's a lot of risk management, financial risk management, and legal risk management, and all those things that kind of creep up as you get bigger. So that was really my first thing I had to do was to make sure we really built up that middle tier manager role.
So you built up this structure, this management structure, and you said earlier on that the founder and CEO Casey spends most of his time now doing marketing. And you mentioned you're doing, financial stuff, there's legal stuff. You're kind of it sounds like running the operations.
Yeah, what Casey did was build the company up again to like that 15 or so thing, and then said, hey, you know what? What I really enjoy doing is marketing. Obviously, we're in the marketing business, right? Yep. So, and he also enjoys, he does all of our, ecosystem reach out and, this public speaking and all that, Southwest Dreamin' and, all those events that we do. And the podcasts and things. And it really was just looking for somebody he himself to hand off the day-to-day operations. I call it like store minding, right? Like, yep. Or leader of the band while he's out, putting all the flyers and doing all the things that he likes to do to drum up and bring business in. So, sure. But yeah, so that's kind of the relationship is he's the founder, and then I'm the GM, or, the person that runs the day-to-day.
And in terms of, for you, are you doing a lot of work directly with clients, or are you kind of managing the people who are working with clients?
What happens is I'm managing the people that are working with clients. So I will say though, when it comes to pitching in and doing things, when you have a project run rate of X projects, and people have a lot of client work that they're doing, we all lend a hand. I lend a hand. I was a software developer earlier in my career, and project manager and all that stuff. So I tend to do a fair amount of PMing when we're in those spikes, or we need support, or somebody's on maternity leave, which happens often, like that kind of stuff. And so I do kind of get in the middle of it, but by and large, 90% of the time, I'm more just overseeing those kind of functions, the people that are involved in the day-to-day of each of those functions.
Cool. And Tom, for you, I'll throw that question to you too. As the founder, how much at this point are you working on projects with clients?
We've actually got analysis on this. It's probably around about 30 to 40% is my sort of billable hours, and that's only going down as we grow, which is natural, I guess. Whereas it used to be, say, 90 to 20% of my time was on client work when I was doing it by myself. Yeah. We're not quite at that stage yet where I'm sort of doing no client work. Yeah. It'd be a sad day when that happens. I quite enjoy it.
And in terms of, you're like your best case study. You've got data on your on how much your billables are. So that other 70 to 60%, talk to us about that. What else are you doing besides working with clients?
So a lot of that is management of people. So
Okay.
just because again, like I said, I'm one man.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get 3, 4, 5, 6 people up to my particular level, just from overseeing them and getting them more efficient, getting the quality of work extremely high, that's better for the business than me working on a project. So it's just that common sense approach for where my time should be spent, and that's predominantly where I spend my time, and then it's selling, I'd say, is the rest.
Got it.
Yeah, upselling projects.
I would say that just from a progression standpoint, what you just described, Brian, like, from being a freelancer, Casey's, if he was here, he'd say, wow, this was exactly the progression. It was, doing freelancing the way you did it, Tom, and then, you grow into, 4 or 5 people big. And then when he got to 15 people big, he's like, okay, I can go do something else that I just want to focus on the front of this and be the face of the company. And he hired somebody to come in and kind of run the day to day. So it was just kind of like that exact progression that you described. And trying to scale and figure that out.
And Tom, right now, so Brian talked a little bit about the kind of the structure, the org structure a little bit on his team. Can you talk about for yours, like, and even if there's not a org structure exactly like his, like, what are the roles of folks that are on your team at this point?
Yeah, so we actually defined this recently. So myself, I'm doing most of the client onboarding, setting in the projects, doing a lot of the marketing, working out business operations and all that kind of stuff. And I've got Jake, who's alongside me, and he does all the HR. So he does obviously sort of timesheets and sort of manages his own clients. So he does a lot of the work as well, but he manages the team's clients as well. So he knows what's going on across the whole org, not just his own. And then we have consultants underneath us who are just going to constantly build that up, eventually getting to the point where we can specialize. So we can say, okay, we've got 2 or 3 people in the organization who are amazing at financial services or manufacturing. We can sort of align with those pillars, which I believe is a smart way to go, given that Salesforce is very focused on those areas.
Yeah, and what was I going to say? In the folks who are the consultants, they do the full sort of, they work with the client, they do whatever, technical build needs to be done.
Yeah, so they're very much their own individual consultant. So we train them up to a level where they can project manage, they can do the actual work, they can speak to marketing automation strategy level, but then also the technical deeper level. So they're all very, very well rounded. We don't take the structure of like director executive role where you have the strategy from the director and you'd have the executive doing the actual legwork. We try to sort of keep it well rounded, because I don't ever want a situation where there's a client call and someone can't answer a question. I just don't think that's beneficial for the client.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Brian, you and I came from, back in the distant past, we came from the big company corporate world where a lot of times, number one, big company corporate world, and number 2, like sort of pre-cloud. So the structure of technology projects was just different, right? It was much more like assembly line is the wrong term, but like there wasn't somebody who could do everything. It was like handed off from person to person to person. And I don't know, Brian, I don't know how Cheshire is structured now. Can you talk about that piece a little bit?
Yeah, we have, we try to make it really thin, right? Like, it's kind of, I say, like, Casey, owns the company, and then I work with the management team. They're all my directs, but like we all work together as a team, and I get involved with some projects sometimes. But each of them are all due, Tom, I think what you described was, each of them are very, efficient and very knowledgeable, sorry, in what it is that they know. So Pardot practice lead, Salesforce practice, obviously everybody knows the tech really well. Everybody can jump into somebody else's, each of the managers can jump into somebody else's, org and help out where they need, pick up client work. So they all kind of have that dimension to them. And I'm kind of the added tier of, I know enough of the tech to be dangerous, but try not to get in everybody's way while we're doing it, and provide more of the coordination and, the financial forecasting and the core guts kind of back office business stuff more often than not.
So for both of you guys, one thing I've seen, less so in the Salesforce space, but for other consulting companies, it's like you've got kind of like what Tom said, you have sort of the client facing consultants and then the non-client facing consultants, which that's sort of for me, a little bit of a contradiction in terms. But it sounds like for both of you, the folks on your team, they're all able to, like, if not lead a client project, work with the clients directly.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important. I think it's key to growth.
We cross-train all over the place. Everybody, not only on top of knowing their function and being able to provide, strong B2B advisory, everybody needs to be a project manager too, right? Like that's what professional services is. No matter what you're doing, there is a component of that has to track how many hours you're working, has to, track dependencies from somebody that something else has, somebody else has to deliver in order for you to do that, and push. There are all those PM one-on-one things isn't easy, but we made it. You kind of have to have it to be successful and mitigate risks and whatnot. Everybody's kind of a PM as well.
That's awesome. That was one of the things that in this conversation I was interested to chat with both of you about, because like I said, particularly, years ago, that's, Brian, you and I have worked on larger projects where that model, it was the exact opposite. Exactly. And I, for one, I'm sort of, Tom, I like to do everything myself, and I like to work on teams where everybody can sort of do everything. I find it's more enjoyable, and those are generally the kind of people I like working with anyway. So it's interesting to hear both of you say that too.
The corporate world is exactly right, Brian. I think, from our own experience, we're both probably chuckling a little bit, thinking about the same projects and what the 2 a.m. calls to China were about and all that, right. So, but yeah, it's true. It's like in that instance, it's very different in all of our worlds. And I think it's much more efficient and provides a better customer experience. Like in big shop world, there's a project manager who doesn't really know anything about the technology that's yelling at the developer at 11 o'clock at night because the issue won't be fixed. And everybody's screaming about how the scope is creeped. And the QA person is like, I can't do anything till you move it in. And then everybody's like, this has to be live tomorrow. And the functionalization of it becomes a communication kind of, spaghetti mess, versus the model that we try to promote, which I think aligns to, Brian, honestly, to the tech and cloud-based services. Like it's different and agile frameworks, right? It's not a waterfall, it all kind of has evolved together. The disciplines have evolved together, but it's much more efficient. That's what I say. Everybody's kind of a PM. Everybody's a technologist. In our universe are the hardcore Pardot, strategists reach over to our Salesforce team and say, we need support on the CRM side, and vice versa the other way. And then our head architect and her team kind of put it all together in between for the complexities that exist between the two platforms. So.
Yeah. So we are running short on time, but Tom, I want to give you, kind of give you the last word on all this. You mentioned, where you came from, you mentioned where you are now, and you gave us sort of a hint of, where you're looking to go in terms of specializing in particular verticals. Now I don't want you to, sort of give away, your secrets or your business plans or whatever, but can you talk more about that? Like where in terms of team, in terms of work that you're looking to do in the future, what the future looks like for MarkCloud.
Yeah, sure. So we're always going to be Pardot first, primarily because we're marketers. And it's going to be one of those things where the technology is going to kind of lead us in a way, because we're going to be, well, as Pardot becomes more seamlessly integrated with Salesforce, that's going to kind of give us a bit of direction. Okay, now we need to know X, Y, Z, maybe a bit of Analytics Studio, maybe a bit of Service Cloud, and it's going to help us our own direction. But in the meantime, there's some pretty common sense things we can do, like aligning better with Salesforce. You know, they're telling us align with your key verticals, where are your case studies, where's your experience, and us, we just need to listen. It's well, simple things in business, I guess. Just listen, and then make your plans around, you know, the information and the data. So that's another sort of hint as to where we're going, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting too that you you mentioned that a couple of times, but you and your team identify yourselves as marketers first.
Yeah.
And I know maybe it's a Salesforce Pardot thing, but I know at least for me personally, you know, I think of myself as a technologist first, and probably a, you know, not much of a marketer, but a data person and a technology person. And it's interesting when you see, I think maybe particularly in the Pardot space, there's some people who are Pardot people, but they're technologists. And there are some people who are Pardot people and they're marketers. And one of the things that I found is, you know, somebody will, you know, reach out to me and say, hey, you do Pardot, right? And I'm like, well, I do Pardot, but are you looking for a marketer or are you looking for a technology person?
Yeah, that's
Totally different.
It's a big thing, I think. And it depends on your key discipline, because that's your decision-making skills. I've come across loads of amazing solutions, maybe not the best ones, but they're very clever, but they're Salesforce-led. And it's, well, why are you doing it when it's Salesforce-led when the data should stay in Pardot? It's those questions you zoom out a little bit. And if you have that marketing expertise and knowledge and background, it helps you approach solutions differently. It's like, well, have you thought about this? And it's important. I wouldn't ever claim to be a Sales Cloud expert, because my discipline is in Pardot and marketing automation.
Right. Yeah. And you know, I know I've been in, you know, a sales call with somebody who's interested in Pardot, and they're interested in Pardot, but they want to know all the strategy before the Pardot implementation, right? And be able to deliver that, you know? And it's, again, it's important to make that distinction about what the client wants. Brian Talarczyk, I said I was going to give Tom the last word, but I'm actually going to give you the last word, because I know that you have thoughts about this too, and you've been nodding your head. So the marketer versus IT piece to close it up.
Well, we all know that IT, you know, just the tail wags the dog there, you know, especially in corporate land, Brian, is where we were, where, you know, all the reasons that tends to happen, you know, stay out of the way. But we
in the basement, or move to the suburbs.
Well, we have the budget, you have all the power. So you don't know anything about how to bring in business to the company. But anyway, yeah, I think we definitely, along very similar, Tom, honestly, where, you know, we promote ourselves and are at heart sales and marketing strategists first. You know, people, you're a technology professional services company, you know, Salesforce, Pardot, but you know, at heart, a lot of the folks that at Cheshire Impact are, you know, have just been marketing strategists for many years, and then they learn the tech along the way, and, you know, it kind of becomes that thing. So we try to promote and stay there. It's really important to do, especially with the mid-market and enterprise companies, where, you know, you have to stay on task there, you have to focus there, and not just be talking with the ID department about standing up a new ERP, you know, or CRM, as the case may be. So I think for us, it's the same thing. And also along the same lines, where the future of Cheshire holds, there's a lot of listening going on right now. Coronavirus and business response and everything invokes just a lot of listening. Our consultants with clients are listening to what their needs are, and some of them are paused indefinitely, and some of them are on hyper, we need to do all this now to control messaging. We're doing a lot of listening. I'm doing a lot of listening. Our management team is, you know, trying to understand where that's going. But for us from a strategy perspective, we just have been on hyper growth. So it's really just continuing, and we expect that in some degree to continue, maybe not as heavily. It's that scaling function. It's just continuing down the path of people, process, and technology, and where to put our investments, right? Like we're taking the profits, and if we want to grow, you have to invest them. Where do those investments go, and figuring that out. So that's kind of my day-to-day job.
Well, guys, this is a great conversation. I enjoyed it. I'm sure the people listening enjoyed it. And thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.